So this is just a brief introduction to the term physical geography. I am not defining the term geography because I have done that in the first session itself. Yes, and I have also uploaded the video of the first session in the group. अरे देखा होगा आपने? और मुझे खुद देख के बहुत शर्म आता है, ठीक है? हाँ, मुझे अपना आवाज़ बिल्कुल खुद पसंद नहीं है, ठीक है? ये बहुत बुरा लगता है कि खुद को अपना ही आवाज़ सुनना पड़े, मतलब कोई अच्छा सा आवाज़ हो, मेलोडियस हो, है ना? किसी का मतलब कोई मधुर आवाज़ सुने, मेरा आवाज़ सुन मुझे दिन भर मुझे खुद लगता है मैं क्या बोलता रहता हूँ, ठीक है? तो मैंने देखा तो नहीं है, बट जस्ट ये इंश्योर किया कि वीडियो हैज बीन प्रॉपर्ली इट हैज बीन प्रॉपर्ली अपलोडेड. तो आप लोगों ने देखा होगा नहीं? ओके, यू डोंट लाइक माय वॉइस ना, तो ठीक है, अच्छा बात है. मैंने बोला अपना वॉइस अच्छा नहीं लगता है, ठीक है? आपके लिए तो दूसरा का है ना, ठीक है? तो देख लेना, अगर आप मतलब इफ यू हैव मिस्ड द फर्स्ट सेशन, राइट, तो प्लीज गो फॉर दैट. Because that is one session. One session we devoted for understanding the entire I would say the entire demand of this this subject. What we should follow, and then we also understood the importance of this subject. So geography was the main term we focused on in the first session. Now coming to the first section of paper 1, that is physical geography. And physical geography is actually the study of earth science, right? Study of earth science. And then actually in layman language I would say it is the study of nature, right? Study of nature. How the physical setting of nature has evolved. This is what we have to study, right? So I would say this branch of geography deals with what? Deals with the study of the earth system in a holistic manner, right? In a comprehensive manner, in an integrated manner, right? And this earth system has some this earth system has some dynamic components, right? What are those dynamic components? There are 4 dynamic components of this earth system, right? Which make up this earth system, right? See, earth, when we say earth surface, that is a different thing. We are talking about the uppermost layer of what? Uppermost layer of lithosphere, yes or no? When we say earth system, that means one holistic body which has integration, which has dynamic relationship between all the 4 components. What are the 4 components of the earth system? These are your 4 components. You can see I have written in layman language, right? Lithosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere and biosphere, right? These are 4 main components of the earth system, and this is what we have to study, right? We have to study their dynamic existence. You can see here their dynamic existence and their interrelationship, okay? interrelationship. That means there is no there is no independent existence of those components. Those components are having a those components are having a deep relationship with each other. They are intricately related to each other. They are having interdependent relationship. They do not exist in isolation, right? So we have to focus on the integrated study of this Earth system, right? Okay. Then among those four components of the Earth system, the most important component, the central component of the Earth system is lithosphere, right? Lithosphere, okay? Why? I talked about that point, lithosphere, because this is your lithosphere upon which we have existence and sustenance of other component of the Earth system, right? We talk about atmosphere. So where is that gaseous envelope lying? The gaseous envelope is surrounding the Earth's surface from all sides. So that is existing over what? That is existing over the lithosphere, right? Okay. Talk about hydrosphere. Where is that hydrosphere existing? The hydrosphere is existing again over the lithosphere, over the oceanic crust. Yes. Okay. Now come to the fourth one, right? Fourth component, which is product of continuous exchange of matter and energy between the first three components, and that gives rise to those biogeochemical cycle, that gives rise to the organic compounds, and those organic compounds give rise to one niche where we have existence of all life form, including human being. That is your biosphere, right? Where that biosphere exists, my friend? Where that biosphere exists? Again over the lithosphere, right? You talk about animal, right? You talk about plants, you talk about human beings, you talk about animal and plant distribution under the water and over the land. Yes? So that exists where? Again over the lithosphere. That is why it is the central component of the Earth system, right? Now, why it is called the central component? I have explained this. Okay? Go to the next part. Okay? The branch of geology. अभी देखना है यहाँ पे, इसलिए मैंने बोला geography is a multi-dimensional, multidisciplinary subject where you study bit of each branch of science, each branch of humanity. ठीक है? थोड़ा मोड़ा anthropology भी, थोड़ा मोड़ा sociology भी. That means you are jack of all. ठीक है? बात समझ में आ रहा है? थोड़ा सब कुछ पढ़ना है आपको. पॉलिटिकल साइंस भी थोड़ा पढ़ना है, थोड़ा इकोनॉमी भी पढ़ना है, थोड़ा सा सोशियोलॉजी भी चाहिए, है ना? बात समझ में आ रहा है? तो इसलिए बहुत वास्ट हो जाता है सिलेबस क्यों वास्ट है? नाउ यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड, राइट? So this is one branch of geology, and you know that geology is a separate optional subject in the list of optional offered by the commission. Have you seen that list of optional subject? अरे जियोलॉजी देख लेना, ज्योग्राफी से जस्ट ऊपर होगा, है ना? ठीक है? तो जियोलॉजी अलग ही एक ऑप्शनल सब्जेक्ट है, और उसका भी हम एक ब्रांच हम लोग पढ़ रहे हैं, और वो ब्रांच क्या है? That branch is called geomorphology, right? So the appropriate I would say the appropriate term, or I would say the discipline that deals with the central component of the Earth system, right? Which we casually call as lithosphere. Actually, this is not only lithosphere, right? That goes beyond that, right? That goes beyond that. That is why we talk about, or we use one term, we call it as geomorphology, which is a comprehensive term to understand different forms of Earth, right? Different forms of Earth. So that is why we call it a geomorphology, not lithosphere. You know that lithosphere is just one. I said lithosphere is just one cross section of Earth interior which lies above the astronosphere, right? Just one cross section. It does not talk about the entire Earth interior. Yes or no, right? So this is your geomorphology, which talks about the entire Earth system, right? The interior of the Earth, and also deals with the Earth's surface. Okay. So we'll start with geomorphology. Okay. So first of all, we take a casual view of this term called geomorphology. मॉर्फोलॉजी, ठीक है, बात समझ में आ रहा है? हम लोग इसका बिल्कुल कैजुअल वर्ड समझेंगे, और मैंने आपको बार बार बोला है कि व्हेन वी स्टार्ट वन यूनिट, राइट, माय टास्क वुड बी टू गिव यू ए सिनॉप्सिस ऑफ द एंटायर यूनिट, राइट, इन 10 मिनट्स, ठीक है, और यही आपको टास्क सीखना है, ठीक है। अगर आपने ये सीख लिया तो फिर कोई मुश्किल नहीं, ठीक है, बिकॉज डोंट एक्सपेक्ट ए डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम एनी पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक, राइट, so try to go deeper and bring a synopsis of the entire, entire unit, maybe entire paper in 1 hour. If you ask me to give a synopsis of the entire one, right, I mean in 1 hour the entire synopsis of the whole paper, I can do that, right, but I'll be focusing where? I'll be focusing on the main aspect, yes or no, not the details, okay. So first of all we have to see the what part of the term called geomorphology. तो अब देखना है क्या क्या मतलब है इसका. Geo means earth, morpho means forms, logy means study, ठीक है ना, which clearly means that geomorphology deals with the study of earth forms, yes, study of earth forms. And when I say earth forms, right, earth forms, let us not get confused, right, earth forms, different forms of earth, right, and when I say different forms of earth, this earth, right, this earth has two broad areas, I said two broad aspect. What is the two broad aspect? One is the interior part of the earth and the other is the earth's surface. Are you getting my point? Interior part of the earth. So under the interior what you study? You study physical condition prevailing inside the earth, that is structure, composition, that means the layered arrangement of material inside the earth and the content of the earth interior, yes, right. The geophysical phenomena we have prevailing force or operating inside the earth, okay, that is your interior of earth, right, okay. Now when you talk about interior of earth, you can see the topics. Go back to the syllabus, एक बार वापस जाना, syllabus देखना है. See the topics. See the third topic, origin and evolution of the earth crust, है. Go to the fifth topic. Do you find one topic called physical condition prevailing inside the earth? अरे है क्या? ठीक है. So these two topics will fall where? Now you know. कहाँ पे जाने वाले ये? अरे yes or no? These two topics will fall here, right? Okay. These two topics will fall here. Then come to the earth surface. अब देखना है earth surface पे. When you come onto the earth surface, you have variety of earth forms. That means variety of physical features, variety of land forms. So what do you study over the surface of earth? क्या पढ़ते हैं आप? You study the physical features or land forms found over the land and under the water. That means over the continental crust and over the oceanic crust, right? Different forms of land, याद रखना है, different forms of land, forms, right? Different shape of land, different forms of land are called as land forms, right? And these land forms are of different types, okay? We have continent, you have oceans, you have mountains, you have plateaus, you have plains, you have gorges, you have canyons, you have waterfall. I mean, there are variety of land forms, okay? You have to study all those land forms over the earth's surface, yes, right? And to understand how these land forms have evolved, I said to understand how these land forms, देखना यहाँ पे अब हम लोग forms का बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? How those land forms have evolved, we have to deal with what? We have to deal with the processes which lead to the formation of those land forms. The processes which are involved in the evolution of those land forms. What are those processes? There are two types of process. One is the most dominant one. We call it as natural process. What is that natural process, my friend? Natural process क्या है? That natural process is called geomorphic process. Right? Geomorphic processes are of two types. endogenetic and exogenetic. अब एक काम करना है, फिर से सिलेबस देखना है. See the endogenetic, right? Do you find those topics like factors affecting landform development? First topic. Second topic, endogenetic and exogenetic forces. है क्या? Right? Then you go further, right? Further and see those, right? Those topics like continental drift, right? Sea floor spreading, isostacy, geosyncline. है क्या? ठीक है? तो these, right? I said these topics are related to what? These all topics are related to endogenetic processes. ठीक है? Are you getting my point? Endogenetic is the dominant process, right, holding the key for all these topics. And then you see the last part of those topics, but the last part of the last part of unit, right, unit 1. देखना है क्या क्या आपको topics मिलेंगे? देखो आप denudation, right, denudation chronology, right, you'll find erosional surface, ठीक है, you'll find weathering, ये सब लिखा हुआ है क्या? ठीक है, Davison model, Peck model, King's model, है ना? अरे ये सब no, ये सब कहाँ जाएंगे? Where? ठीक है? You can put all those topics here. ठीक है? बात समझ में आ रहा है? Right? This is the interplay. याद रखना है, दोनों अलग अलग काम नहीं कर रहे. ठीक है? The interplay between these two, right? These two processes, these two forces will lead to what? Will lead to the development. That means origin and evolution of landforms. Different types of land. Yes? Different forms of land. Okay? Right? Apart from the natural process, you have one more process. And what is that? That includes human being. Anthropogenetic processes. Okay? You know that man, right? Man has become the biggest modifier of the surface now. Okay? With the advancement in science and technology, with attainment of more and more technological tools in our hand, we are able to modify the surface. What we are doing? You are cutting the mountains, yes or no? You are cutting the mountain, you are modifying the slope, you are developing infrastructure, road, railway, right, airports, yes or no? So what you are doing? You are one of the biggest agent now. You are one of the biggest force, right, or biggest modifier of the Earth's surface, and ultimately you are modifying what? You are modifying the natural landforms. ठीक है? Mountain थे, आपने उसको क्या बना दिया? अरे उसको काट के क्या बना दिया? मालूम है? ठीक है? और ये सुनो, तो केवल एक पार्ट से काम नहीं चलने वाला. ठीक है? We have to always, yes, right, I agree that natural processes are pervasive. ठीक है? They are more intense, yes or no? But you cannot ignore human beings, right? You cannot ignore human beings, especially the modern man, yes or no? हम लोग का जो हालत है, हम लोग तो मालूम है कि अभी हम लोग जाते भी नहीं है, ठीक है? हम लोग रोबोट को भेज देते काम करने के लिए, ठीक है? We can send robots to, Mars and Moon and Sun, right? And we are planning for the development of the settlement, ठीक है? नासा ने तो ऑलरेडी शुरू कर दिया ना, रोड बनाना, ठीक है, सेटलमेंट बनाना, ठीक है? तो हम लोग को तो जाने का भी जरूरत नहीं, ठीक है? रोबोट्स हमारा काम करते हैं, ठीक है? तो सोच के देखिए कि इसको हम लोग इग्नोर कैसे कर सकते हैं, ठीक है? That is not the correct way of seeing the landform, their origin and evolution. Okay? So this is the summary of the term called geomorphology. Okay? Now coming to the second part, very quickly. What is the main aim of geomorphology? Geomorphology का क्या main aim है, right? The main aim of geomorphology is to study the origin and evolution और you can say study से अच्छा है reconstruct the origin and evolution of landforms through geological time. Reconstruct, ठीक है? To reconstruct the origin and evolution of landform through geological time, ठीक है? जैसे कि मैं आपको पूछूंगा एक छोटा सा सवाल, मतलब एग्जाम्पल देके ही समझना है इसको, ठीक है? कुछ भी बात को ऐसे हवाई में एक्सेप्ट नहीं करना है। बुक में लिखा हो, कहीं भी लिखा हो, ठीक है? नोट्स में भी लिखा हुआ है, तो आपको क्या इसमें पॉइंट क्या समझना है कि रिकंस्ट्रक्शन करना है आपको, ठीक है? What we have to reconstruct? We have to reconstruct the geological history, right? Geological history. How this landform has evolved, right? What are the factors and processes that has operated in geological time that has led to the evolution of a landform? So if I ask you about the origin and evolution of Himalaya, you can talk about the events, yes or no? You can talk about the event that means the collision between Indian plate and Eurasian plate and sand, and bulging of the material, bending, folding of the material that lies between these two plates along the margin of these two plates, and ultimately that led to the evolution of a bended, folded strata that is your Himalaya. Yes. So what you are doing? You are talking about the geological event, right? You will say that Indian plate separated from the Australian plate somewhere around 120 million years ago. It started moving toward the north. To the north of Indian plate was lying a Tethys Sea. That Tethys Sea was subjected to deformation. एक सारा कहानी बताएंगे ना, ठीक है? तो करना क्या करना होगा? You have to talk about the history of the landform, right? And you have to reconstruct the history. Why the landform is behaving the way it is behaving, right? Why the Himalayas are having why the Himalayas are having a particular shape that is arc shape. कैसा है हिमालय? Arc shape, ठीक है? Yes or no? Why the Himalayas are having compressed nature on the eastern side and broader nature on the western side? ये सारा कुछ आपको बताने के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? You have to go back in time and you have to talk about the events, right? So the main job of geomorphology is to reconstruct the geological history for explaining the origin and evolution of the landform, right? Now coming to the next point, what is the scope of geomorphology? क्या scope है? ठीक है? क्या करते हैं? Number 1. So you can see the scope here. There are three main areas or main mandate given to this branch of geology. And what is that? Number 1, to study or to explain to study the landforms and their evolution, or you can say to explain the evolution of landform, right? Second, to study the processes involved in the evolution of landform. What are the processes? I've talked about both the process, natural process, anthropogenetic process, right? The dominant one is natural process, that is your geomorphic. And third is to study the changing dynamics, okay? Because these processes do not operate, right, operate with same intensity, right, with same intensity everywhere and, right, and at all times, right. They are not having same intensity. Maybe, right, maybe these processes have operated very slowly in geological time, but now they have been, right, they have been accelerated, right. So these processes, they are not having uniform behavior, right. They have no uniform behavior and they do not work with same intensity at all the places. I mean to say, just imagine, you have a place, right, you have a place in the tropical belt and you have another place in the polar area. Okay. Now you tell me, one of the geomorphic process or force is exogenetic force, right? Exogenetic processes could be more dominant in the tropical belt or in the polar areas. Logic is what? You know that geomorphic processes derive their energy from climate, right? That means the climatic condition, right? Climate of any place is determined by the pattern of energy flow coming from sun, right? That means incoming solar insolation, right? That incoming solar insolation is highly concentrated where? In the tropical belt, right? And that leads to what? The rocks would be subjected to more, right? More what? They would be subjected to more stress and strain, right? More stress and strain will lead to what? Disintegration of the rock, wear and tear of the rock. That is not right. That is not so fast in the polar area, right? Okay? So temperature, precipitation, these all factors will play an important role in controlling the rate, right? Rate and efficiency of weathering. That is called as wear and tear, disintegration of the rocks, right? ठीक है. तो ये सारे प्रोसेसेस एक जैसे काम नहीं करेंगे. एंडोजेनेटिक क्या सब जगह एक जैसा काम कर रहा है? नहीं. ठीक है. You have some places where you have what? Sudden movement. Yes. You have volcanic eruption. You have shaking of the land. But do you have volcanic eruption and shaking of land everywhere? No. There are some places which are free from any seismicity. There are some places where you have no volcanic eruption. Yes or no? Why this is so? ठीक है. Like, see, you all know that we are living on one of the most active plate of the world, that is Indian plate, right? And this Indian plate is moving what? Moving toward the north at a rate of 5 to 10 centimeter every year, right? Do you feel that movement? I'm making this statement and still the plate is moving, ठीक है? जब मैं बोल रहा हूँ तब भी plate चल रहा है. But do you feel that movement? No. Why? Because one of the most permanent type of force or movement that takes place is called diastrophic forces, right? They are invisible but they are permanent, ठीक है ना? लेकिन कुछ forces कैसे होते हैं? Sudden, कहीं पे क्या करते हैं वो? Shaking of the land, earthquake, yes, and at some places you have pressure being released and that is in the form of volcanic eruption, yes, ठीक है? तो sudden forces को तो हम देख पाते हैं, diastrophic को तो हम नहीं देख पाते, ठीक है? Right? That is one point to be considered here to understand that that geomorphic processes do not operate with same intensity everywhere and they do not operate with same intensity at all time. ठीक है? Clear? जब माउंटेन बिल्डिंग हुआ है तो मान के चलिए सारा बात हम लोग आगे डिटेल में करने वाले हैं. तो माउंटेन बिल्डिंग हुआ इसका मतलब कि प्लेट सारे जो है एक्सेलरेटेड मूवमेंट कर रहे थे, राइट? माउंटेन बिल्डिंग हम अभी क्यों नहीं देख रहे हैं? ठीक है? Why throughout the history of Earth, right? All phases have not witnessed mountain building. There are only 9 phases of mountain building, right? 4.6 billion years में केवल 9 phase, right? इसका मतलब है कि कभी-कभी प्लेट बहुत तेजी से चलता है और कभी-कभी स्लो हो जाता है. And there are evidences for this, right? There are evidences for this, right? We have collected those evidences from sea floor spreading, which prove the fact that plates at different boundaries are moving at different velocity. They are not having same speed, right? And in the Arctic Circle, the plate has slowed down. ठीक है? 200 साल पहले प्लेट का मूवमेंट it was around 20 centimeter per year and now it has gone down to 14 centimeter per year. ठीक है? तो कहीं पे स्लो मूवमेंट हो रहा है और कहीं पे फास्ट हो रहा है. मतलब इसका डायनामिक्स है. It is not permanent, right? So this is about the scope. Now I'll use one statement of a renowned scholar named Stoller, and he defines the term geomorphology in his own way. So Stoller said Geomorphology is what? Geomorphology as analysis of origin and evolution of earth features. Analysis of origin and evolution of earth features, right? That is geomorphology. उसको हम बोलते हैं geomorphology, ठीक है, right? तो कभी कभी देखो ऐसा होता है, मतलब मैं इसलिए स्टेटमेंट को, मतलब I have given you the notes also, right? This statement I have replicated here, I have reproduced here. रीजन उसका यही है. कभी कभी क्या होता है कि क्वेश्चन में आपको एक स्टेटमेंट दे देते हैं, ठीक है, आपने देखा होगा, go back in and see those previous questions, right? तो आपको एक स्टेटमेंट दे देंगे एंड देन राइट, देन दे विल आस्क यू टू सब्सटेंशिएट द स्टेटमेंट, ठीक है, सब्सटेंशिएट, राइट, सब्सटेंशिएट द स्टेटमेंट विद सम सुटेबल एग्जांपल्स, ठीक है. तो क्या करेंगे आप, फिर बोलेंगे ये स्टेटमेंट किसने दिया, ठीक है, इसी में दिमाग खराब होगा. तो राइट, यू शुड कीप इन माइंड दिस पार्टिकुलर स्टेटमेंट. स्टॉलर है, ही इज वन ऑफ द रिनाउंड जियोमॉर्फोलॉजिस्ट. सो दिस इज योर राइट, दिस इज योर right, this is your meaning of the term called geomorphology according to according to Stoller. Now coming to the last part very quickly, and that is your fundamental principles followed in the study of जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी. फिर से याद रखना, ये सारा एक्सरसाइज मैं इसलिए कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि बार बार जब मैं बोलने लगूंगा कुछ तो फिर मैं रुकने वाला नहीं, ठीक है. फिर मैं ये सब बात नहीं करूंगा. आपको मैंने बैकग्राउंड बता दिया, ठीक है. यू शुड नो कि व्हाट मेथोडोलॉजीज वी आर यूजिंग, राइट, ओके. सो व्हेन आई से when I say uniformitarianism, right, when I say importance of climate, okay, so you should be sure कि मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ, ठीक है. So this is your right. These are some fundamental principles which are taken into account, which are followed in the study of geomorphology. What are those fundamental principles? Number one, it says that the processes which operate today have operated in geological past also, but with varying intensity. This is the principle, we call this principle as principle of uniformitarianism. Okay? मतलब जो आज हो रहा है वो पहले भी हो रहा, जरूर हो रहा होगा, ठीक है. Yes, the intensity of such processes would not be same, right? Now what is the process? Process तो आपको पता है, geomorphic process, right? देखो इसमें anthropogenetic process को मत involve करना, ठीक है. We are talking about the natural process, okay? So the processes which operate today, right? That means your endogenetic, exogenetic, right? The processes which you see today, right? They must be operating in the geological past also, right? But they may have, right? They may have a varying intensity. That means they are not operating with same intensity, right? In all times, right? In all times. This is the first fundamental principle we follow in the study of geomorphology. That means whatever reconstruction of reconstruction, याद है ना main aim, reconstructing the history of the landform, right? So whatever reconstruction of time we do, that is purely based on present day observation, right? Whatever observation we are making today, right? Whatever observation we are making today, based on that observation we can predict the behavior of earth in geological time, right? Yes, जैसे मैंने अभी आपको बोला, एक एग्जांपल मैंने दिया, क्या है कि the plate, right, the Indian plate is moving, yes, moving toward the north. Clear है? So we can safely say that the plate must be moving toward the north in geological time also, right? Or yes or no? Yes or no? but the plate, right, the plate does not move with same intensity. It was not having the same, right, same velocity which is having, right, which it is having today, right. The plate, right, the plate moved at a rate of around, right, around 15 to 20 centimeter at the time of Himalayan origin. जब हिमालय का origin हो रहा था तो क्या था velocity plate का 15 से 20 सेंटीमीटर पर ईयर, और अभी क्या है 5 to 10 centimeter, which means that the intensity of those processes differ from time to time. ठीक है, but they are present, they are pervasive force, and they have acted throughout, right, throughout the history of the geological, right, geological time, or you can say throughout the history of any particular landform. Okay, so this is the principle of uniformitarianism, right. ठीक है, that is based on one philosophy, we call it as, right, that was given by Charles Anselm, right, and he coined it. He coined a statement. He said that present is key to the past. Okay? And Hutton later on provided this philosophy. We'll study that in section B, right? Section B, unit 1, that is perspective in human geography. Okay? वहाँ पे हम लोग इसका बात करेंगे. So he provided that, right, that principle of uniformitarianism, right? That means there is uniform application of these processes throughout the geological time, but they do not have same intensity in all, right, in all the times. ठीक है, ये पहला बात है और ये सही है, ये हम लोग मानते हैं. ठीक है, इसके लिए एविडेंस है हमारे पास. ठीक है, बात समझ में आ रहा है ना. और दूसरा प्रिंसिपल क्या है, द सेकंड अप्रोच टू स्टडी जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी was कैटास्ट्रोफिक प्रिंसिपल. ठीक है, जो बोलता है क्या कि नहीं, देयर इज सडन फॉर्मेशन ऑफ माउंटेन, there is sudden evolution of landform, right? There are sudden forces operating everywhere, and those sudden forces lead to the origin and evolution of landform, and also lead to sudden death of the landform. That means you have catastrophic evolution of landform. Evolution of landform, they origin and they die quickly. Yes or no? But that is completely untrue, right? That is completely wrong. We know that sudden forces are temporary in nature. मैंने आपको बताया sudden forces are temporary in nature. The manifestation of that sudden force is in terms of volcanic eruption and earthquake. अच्छा मुझे बताइए, आपको earthquake अगर कहीं shaking हो रहा तो क्या पूरा जिंदगी भर shaking होता है? नहीं, right? 10, 20, 30, 40 seconds shaking, right? Shaking is over, right? The tremor is over. You see volcanic eruption, but do you see the volcanic eruption continuously for years? No, right? Maybe 3, 4, 5 days volcanic eruption stop. Yes or no? Right? Yes or no? And you know that these sudden forces are localized phenomena. They are not operating everywhere. Yes? The force which operates everywhere is diastrophic force. Just now I told you, and that is permanent. Okay? Diastrophic क्या है? Plate movement. Yes? Slow, gradual movement of the plate, but that is not recognizable, right? That is not visible, that cannot be sensed. हम sense नहीं कर पाते, ठीक है? And such movements are what? Permanent, ठीक है? हमेशा प्लेट चल रहा है, हम बोल रहे हैं आपको बात करो फिर भी प्लेट चल रहा है, ठीक है ना? बात समझ में आ रहा है? तो this is your principle of uniformitarianism. Now coming to the second important principle. Geological structure plays a dominant role in the evolution of landform and they leave their imprint over, अच्छा ऐसा करना है, they leave imprint over them. Over them means landform. ठीक है? Geological structure है ना? Geological structure का मतलब क्या हुआ? Geological structure का क्या मतलब हुआ? The structure which is undergoing evolution. Whether that structure is a fragile structure or it is having a compact structure, right? You know the igneous rocks, you know the metamorphic rocks, right? These igneous and metamorphic rocks are what? They are elastic rock, right? They are crystalline in nature, right? If they are subjected to, right? If they are subjected to compressional force, what happens? They do not break down, right? They undergo what? They undergo a change in their shape, right? And they undergo evolution by evolving into a bended folded strata, that is your fold mountain. Now you can understand why inner and middle Himalayas are having highest of the relief, right? Now you can understand why the Himalayas, right, inner and middle Himalayas are having continuous existence right from Indus Gorge to Dihan Gorge. Yes? But do you find Shivaliks everywhere? No. You find Shivalik where? Shivalik in the western part and eastern part only. That means in Arunachal Pradesh and in Himachal Pradesh, some part of Punjab and Uttarakhand. ठीक है, थोड़ा मोड़ा पार्ट मिलता है. Why? Because Shivaliks are made up of sedimentary material, right? ठीक है. So geological structure will determine the evolution, right? The evolution of the landform, the structure of the landform. It will determine the absolute height of the landform. It will determine the relief of the landform, right? Relief का मतलब the difference between highest and lowest point of the landform, right? Okay. So diversity of landform is controlled by what? Geological structure. It plays a very important role. और यहाँ देखना आगे चल के जब हम लोग डेविस को पढ़ेंगे तो आपको पता चला डेविस ने इसके ऊपर बहुत काम किया, ठीक है? And Davis said that landform is product of what? Landform is product of structure, process and time, ठीक है? यही है structure, है ना? तो जो morphology में एक important aspect क्या है? You have to keep in mind the structure. What kind of structure you have, right? What is that building block? That building block is elastic or non-elastic, ठीक है? Elastic समझ रहे हैं ना? जो क्या कर सकता है? दोनों चीज बर्दाश्त कर सकता है, क्या? Compression. अगर उसको compress करोगे तो क्या होगा? It will undergo a change in the shape. And if it is say it is right, if it is teared apart, मतलब if tensional forces are acting, what will happen? It is not going to break down easily, right? So both stress and strain can be absorbed by elastic rocks. That is not possible for the loose rocks, that is your sedimentary rocks. Okay? So this is your second point we have to keep in mind. Third, now the third point you can see here, climate plays a very important role, okay? And that conforms to the fact that we should not study, ये last point इसलिए मैंने रखा है यहाँ पे, ठीक है? There can be other points also, उसका जरूरत नहीं है, बस 3 point आप ध्यान रखना है, ठीक है? मेरा सिर्फ ये कहना है यहाँ पे कि this point proves one fact here, that the Earth system must be studied in totality, right? It must be studied in a holistic manner, which means that if you are studying lithosphere, you cannot ignore atmospheric phenomena, right? You cannot ignore climatic phenomena, right? Are you getting my point? To have a correct understanding of the landform, right, we need to have a proper understanding of the climatic characteristics, right? Okay? Climatic characteristic, because whether it is your velocity of any agent, the agent of degradation, we'll talk about that. You have running water, you have wind, you have sea wave, right? So the velocity of the agents would be controlled by what? Climatic condition. Number two, that would be controlled by the slope of the landform. Number three, that would be controlled by these two factors. You know that temperature and precipitation condition. ठीक है ना? तो पहला क्या मैंने बोला? क्लाइमेट, दूसरा स्लोप. ठीक है, दो चीज कंट्रोल करने वाला है ना? और उसके बाद क्या होने वाला है? अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस, the agent will operate on different surfaces according to the nature of the surface. That means if the surface is weaker, if the surface is fragile, the intensity of weathering and erosion will be faster. If the surface is very crystalline, it is a hard, obviously the effectivity and efficiency of weathering and erosion would be lower. ठीक है. तो ये बात तो याद रखना है कि सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट हमारा ये है कि क्लाइमेट को हमको ध्यान में रखना है जब हम लोग, ठीक है, प्रोसेस के ऊपर बात करें. ठीक है. तो these fundamental principles we are going to follow when we study geomorphology. So let us now start with the first topic, and that is origin and evolution of the earth crust. Okay, so first of all, let me clarify this point that you have origin and evolution. The topic says origin and evolution of the earth crust, right? Which means that the topic demands I said the topic demands the deliberation or discussion upon the uppermost layer of the earth interior, right? Which is the uppermost layer of earth interior? Crust, right? Crust. So this earth crust, you all know, is of two types: continental crust and oceanic crust, right? So we have to deal with the evolution of oceanic crust, and we have to deal with the evolution of continental crust, right? I made one point very clear, that there was no land area, right? There was no land area initially, right? The earth was having a primitive crust, right? A primitive crust, and that was basaltic in nature. There was only oceanic crust. The earth was surrounded by water from all sides. Yes, there was no land area. Now, what is the proportion of land today? The proportion of land today is 29.2%. Yes, right? Which means that over a period of time, the continental blocks have grown at the expanse of the oceanic crust, right? And this trend is going to continue forever, right? This trend is going to continue forever. That means after billions and billions of years from now, you'll find more and more of continental mass and less and less of oceanic crust, right? Why I'm saying this, less and less of oceanic crust? Because you know that once the continental mass is made, once you have rocks coming above the sea level, right? Above the sea level, they become land, right? And once they become land, become a granitic material. That granitic material, the sealic crust, the continental crust, the land mass, it is of lighter nature, and it is never going to what? It is never going to subduct again. It cannot be recycled back inside the earth, right? It will always remain what? It will always remain afloat, right? It will always remain buoyant, right? And it is not going to subduct, unlike your oceanic crust, right? Oceanic crust are denser, right? They are made up of what? They are made up of basaltic material, right? Those oceanic crusts are mafic in nature. That means they have high proportion of magnesium, high proportion of iron, right? And they are heavier and denser. And when they come in contact with the continental plate, right? The continental crust, what happens? Along those zone of interaction, if it is a convergent movement, you know what will happen? The denser plate will subduct under the lighter one, because the continental crust is a lighter crust, and it is always going to remain buoyant. It will follow the law of flotation, and it will never ever subduct, right? That is why I am saying this trend is going to continue in coming time also, right? Is this point clear? So this is what we have to study, right? This is what we have to study. This is the main focus of our study under this topic. We want to know how the continental crust and oceanic crust have evolved. Okay. Now to deal with this problem, we have there are two areas to focus upon. One is external aspect of the topic, external aspect of this phenomena, and that is related to degassing that took place in the geological time, and that led to release of the gases, right? Release of the gases from the interior part of the earth when molten magma converted from liquid to solid, right? So the gases which were dissolved and trapped in the magma, that means the molten magma, the liquid magma, once that magma solidified, the gases were released, right? That's right. That gas which was released from the interior part of the earth, what happened? That gas started enveloping the earth from all sides. Yes, it started enveloping the earth from all sides, and that led to what? That led to the development of secondary atmosphere, because the primitive atmosphere was lost by earth forever due to strong solar winds and weak gravitational field of the earth, because the earth was in gaseous state. ठीक है? अर्थ क्या है? नेबुला है, ठीक है? बात समझ में आ रहा है? गैस स्टेट में. So we'll talk about this later on. इसके ऊपर बात तब तक नहीं करेंगे जब तक मैं क्या करूंगा, जब तक मैं बसाल्टिक क्रस्ट का फॉर्मेशन नहीं बता दूंगा आपको, ठीक है?
Once we deal with the basaltic crust, right, how different rocks are being formed, how recrystallization and crystallization is going on, right. We'll talk about those rocks, right, from your peridotite rock, olivine rock, pyroxene rock, right. You have gabbro, basalt, and then finally granitic rock. एक बार granite बन गया तो क्या होगा? You'll understand the formation of continental crust. याद रखना है, granitic rocks cannot be formed unless until the magma comes in contact with vast expanse of water. ठीक है, जब तक अगर पानी कहीं पे मौजूद ना हो तब तक ग्रेनाइटिक रॉक्स का फॉर्मेशन नहीं हो सकते. ठीक है, ग्रेनाइटिक रॉक्स डेवलप ओनली व्हेन द सुपरहीटेड मैग्मा कम्स इन कांटेक्ट विद वास्ट एक्सपांस ऑफ वाटर. मतलब उसी समय मुझे क्या बताना पड़ेगा आपको, राइट, दैट इज द टाइम व्हेन आई हैव टू टॉक अबाउट, right, talk about what? Talk about the evolution of the atmosphere and the processes like what? The processes like condensation, right, cloud formation, precipitation, है ना. तभी तो बारिश जो के चारों तरफ से बढ़े, चारों तरफ से सरफेस में क्या होगा, पानी इकट्ठा हो जाए और फिर मैग्मा नीचे से निकल रहा है और वो किसको टच कर रहा है, पानी को. और जैसे पानी को टच कर रहा है, मालूम है, पार्ट ऑफ द मैग्मा, राइट, एक्सफोलिएट्स, इट बिकम लाइटर बिकॉज यू हैव केमिकल डिफरेंशिएशन टेकिंग प्लेस, magnetic differentiation taking place in liquid state. याद रखना है, density differentiation takes place in gaseous state, magnetic differentiation takes place in liquid state, and slowly these all processes are transforming the earth interior from gaseous to liquid and liquid to the solid state. ठीक है, so we'll keep this discussion, right, you know, at bay for some time. थोड़ा सा हम लोग इसको अभी रोक के रखते हैं. We'll focus where? We'll focus here. ठीक है, हम लोग internal बात करते हैं पहले. ठीक है, and I'm going to talk about this, right, this internal processes, that means the transformation process under 7 stages. मैं 7 स्टेज बताऊंगा और उसमें हम लोग का पूरा टॉपिक कवर हो जाएगा. ठीक है, clear? Is this point clear to you? Just 2 things you keep in mind. Continental crust are what? Continental crust are lighter. Okay, they are lighter. They are made up of what? They are made up of silica, aluminium, right. These are the main constituent of the continental crust, right. बस इतना बात रखना है, रेस्ट हम लोग आगे बात कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, बस इतना याद रखना है कि ये लाइटर है और सबसे ऊपर रहेगा. Continental crust is made up of what? Granitic rock. Oceanic crust are what? Denser. They are made up of what? Basaltic rock. That's it. ठीक है, कितना ही बात अभी फिलहाल के लिए. ठीक है, right. Because we have to deal with this again, right, again in detail. ठीक है, आप ऐसा मत सोचना कि मैं बार बार बोलता again in detail, मतलब डिटेल में होना है. ये this is just the beginning, है ना. तो हम लोग जैसे मान लो हम लोग रॉक्स के बारे में बात करें, तो obviously we'll talk about these things in detail, right. तो here the job is to focus on the internal part. ठीक है, और पहला स्टेज हम लोग शुरू करते हैं इंटरनल प्रोसेस में क्या क्या अंदर हो रहा है. टाइम, भगवान करे घड़ी नहीं होता अगर दुनिया में, तो मेरे हिसाब में सर्वाइव कर सकता था, है ना. बिकॉज आई एम नॉट दैट स्मार्ट, है ना, तो टाइम पे क्लास खत्म कर पाए. ठीक है, क्या लेट हो रहा है, दिमाग के ऊपर जा रहा है, जब ऊपर जा रहा है, हाँ, ठीक है. तो मैंने बेकार ही लिखा है, इससे पहले आप बता देते. ठीक है, मेरा 2 जूल एनर्जी बच जाता है. ठीक है, तो अब कोई बात नहीं, आप लोगों ने बोल दिया तो अब देखो मैंने लिख दिया तो मेरा तो ये तो नहीं जा सकता, मैं कभी नहीं छोड़ता. ठीक है, तो आपने मुझे धोखा दिया, इसलिए मैं भी आपके साथ धोखा करूँ. ठीक है, लास्ट एक बात बोल के फिर हम लोग कल बात करेंगे. ठीक है, क्या फर्स्ट स्टेज क्या है? अर्थ क्या है? इट इज ए नेबुला. ठीक है, अर्थ क्या है? नेबुला. और नेबुला में क्या है? गैसेस स्टेट. अरे नेबुला तो मतलब क्लाउड ऑफ, ओ मेरे भाई याद रखना, जब नेबुला बोलूंगा मतलब क्लाउड ऑफ गैस एंड डस्ट, राइट. और इसमें क्या होने वाला? डेंसिटी डिफरेंशिएशन, राइट. Because the earth is undergoing, the nebula is undergoing condensation. Condensation leads to what? Contraction. Contraction leads to what? Contraction leads to what? Decrease in the size of the nebula, right? The nebula is undergoing compression, and ultimately what happens? Ultimately it follows, or ultimately the temperature inside the nebula increases, and those elements found within the nebula, the dominant element, which is the dominant element inside the iron, right? And then iron starts melting. ठीक है? Iron melt होने लगता है. When iron starts melting, it also comes in contact with other elements. What are the other elements? Magnesium, silica, right? Calcium, right? Those elements also come in contact with the dominant element, that is iron, and ultimately that leads to the melting of those elements also. That means those elements also undergo partial melting, right? And then that molten mixture of iron, magnesium, silica, calcium, now that is undergoing what? That is undergoing differentiation, right? Differentiation. The denser material proceeding toward the center, and the lighter material being thrown towards the outer part of the earth interior, right? This is your density differentiation, which started in the gas state. याद रखना है, density differentiation takes place in the gas state, right? And that was the beginning of Earth's evolution. ठीक है? Earth का evolution यहाँ से शुरू होता है. ठीक है? So we'll stop here. कोई फायदा भी नहीं हुआ बोल के, लेकिन है ना? So good night. See you tomorrow.